We've been in a drought. It's been hot. It's been humid. What's survived out here? Let's go see. And who's making noise in my front yard? So this is our north bed, and you probably see right there. There's a little turgor today, but they all made it. There's 6 tomatoes in here in this block. There's 3 more in the back. Let's take you back there so you can see that. All right, so there's tomato on that end, 2 over here. This is also where we have some cucumbers. You see a little bit of turgor here, but I haven't watered those yet. They're growing in probably 8, 10-gallon buckets there. Oh, let me show you these beans. Apologize for that noise. Now that's of course dill, which we're saving that for the cucumbers. You see more turgor here. I need to get some water on that. But the main thing is everything in here survived, like these peppers over here. Now this stays fairly shaded through the day. It's not getting as much sun as I like. However, I must have the shade cloth. I have to have that on to protect these tomatoes and cucumbers because this is dead north. Well, don't change that channel yet. It was an accidental experiment, and there's a huge lesson here. This drought actually may have saved me. It may have saved me because I never got to tie these tomatoes up before it was too late. Vacation, bad back. This is a mess. Branches, leaves. This is a trap. If it had been raining, this would have failed. It had fungus, bacterial, all kinds of stuff. As it is, it's full of tomatoes. So I'll show you later, but basically I just run the hose at the very bottom, wide open, no nozzle, let it just soak at least once a day, sometimes twice, because it has been hot, humid, and dry. So let's work around here. This is our summer squash, and it's been producing like nuts. It's got a little bit of disease on it, some of it environmental, humidity damage. There's some actually powdery mildew on that zucchini. This has a few chewers, but yellow squash is produced, the zucchini is produced, and I don't know if you can see it in that shot. There's actually a cinnamon girl pumpkin there. That's obviously a winter squash. Let me bring the camera over and show you that pumpkin, and you can see a load of tomatoes in here too. Now there's supposed to be a path here so I can walk. These tomatoes are everywhere. If you look down in there, you can't even count them. And there's actually 2 different varieties. This is a slicer, and then those are sunrise sauce for saucing. And that's the pumpkin there. This is a jungle, and like I said, the drought in this case is a benefit because if we'd had normal decent rain, this would be a fungal bacteria. It would just be a mess. It'd be full of disease, low production. I would have had to pull all of it. But as it is, this is my highest producing area for tomatoes this year. Hey, you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you just get lucky. All right, here you go. Look at that. Got some turgor going on here. It's protected itself, obviously. So I'll drag the hose over here and soak this down. So the way this bed is constructed, got those 4-inch blocks each. So there's division in it. You see it leaks just like a container would leak. So yeah, take care of that. Again, at least once a day, but for this particular section, it's usually twice a day. It is a cucumber. Well, we've done pretty well with the drought. We're moving to the east bed, and this one, we'll talk about drought and fighting it, but this also includes a lesson on shade, and I'll explain later. I'm standing under a big crepe myrtle that's got much larger since I moved here. Anyway, on the drought, you may have noticed, well, on the stuff I've done so far, You may have noticed I'm watering at ground level, and there's a really good reason to do that. It's a pet peeve of mine. There's a few people out there, well, it rains in the summer, so you can water overhead and yada yada. That's not. Listen, if you're in a hot and humid area, which is pretty much the entire southeast, by the way, you do not want to do that. It doesn't matter if it rains in the summer. That doesn't mean everything's okay. That's a main factor in destroying crops. If it's hot and humid, especially in smaller gardens where things are tight, you're creating an environment for fungal growth. I mean, it's an environment for disease. Just think about your shower. Anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine. In anywhere really, but if it's dry, not humid, I guess it doesn't matter that much. But around here, yeah, no. Do not water overhead. It doesn't matter if it rains in the day. That's not a good thing in the southeast. It's not. It's hot and humid. You don't want that. Anyhow, let's check out the east. Well, I ran this experiment. The other one with the tomatoes, that was accidental. This was on purpose, and it didn't work. I lost. And the main reason is this crepe myrtle is much larger than it was when I moved here. And actually, a crepe myrtle is a great shade tree for your yard. I recommend it. Former landscaper, I recommend that. People plant these big oaks. Oaks are a threat to your yard. Crepe myrtle, well, excuse me, oak trees, any oak tree you can think of, anything big is a threat to the structure. This is not, for the most part. I mean, it can do a little damage, but it's not going to ever demolish your house. Great shade tree, great shade tree. Compared to these, if you look back over here, that was a little grove of poplars. Those are known as money trees. Yeah, because they're full of water, they attract lightning. Boom. So those are money trees to tree guys, or whatever you want to call it. People that take down trees love those trees because they're lightning rods, basically, full of water. Anyway, if one of those falls on your house versus a crepe myrtle, which one do you want? Back to the story, I started some winter squash back here, and I thought it would run to the sun. Now, they were short vine, smaller squash, but it didn't work. I mean, I got a few spaghetti squash, just a mess. Basically, everything from here over, because of the crepe myrtle underproduction. There's some okra down here. I'm known as the okra king. I've grown okra well over 7 foot, and now I think I have the smallest okra plants ever known because of that crepe myrtle. Ay, ay, ay. Well, good morning. We had to stop roll yesterday. It was getting too hot out here. I just got out of the shower. Hair is flat. That's not unusual. We're going to take a look now. They're still in the east bed. We're going to take a look at this raised bed. Of course, you got to do a lot of watering in a drought in the raised bed. Got to do a lot of watering anyway. Now, I will say about this trellis, anything this way, further away from that crepe myrtle, did okay. These look short. Let's see if you can see those. Yeah, you can see them. These look short because they are short. These are sunrise sauce. Decent production, I guess. Nothing compared to the shed bed that demolished tomato stand is that. I mean, those things over there are pretty hefty sized tomatoes. This, I'll grab one. This is nowhere near the size of the tomatoes over there in the shed bed. But it's a salsa tomato, so we left them all up. I think we have 13 of these out here altogether. And then in the back there, can you see that? Yeah. This is our our green beans, which they're just taking their old time. We haven't had a one. I'm not sure what that's about at all. Anyway, we base water this once a day. There's a drip line down there, but it wasn't enough. In fact, we were using that in the first tomato stand I showed you earlier, and we ended up with a lot of blossom end rot because it just wasn't enough water. You know, you got to have the right amount of water so those tomatoes could pick that calcium up. It doesn't matter how much, you know, there can be plenty of calcium in there, but if it's way too wet or way too dry, the tomato can't pick it up and you end up with the blossom end rot. So we switched over and started watering everything by hand and just got rid of the soaker hose. Well, I mean, it's still there, but we don't use it. All right, this is one of two raised beds. This one's made out of concrete block. And there's some new stuff in here. This is a honey melon. That is some new butternut squash, because the squash back there pretty much failed. This is a Space Master cucumber, and is an old ragged Swiss chard. It survived, but I wouldn't eat it. And then we have 3 tomatoes in the back, and they're doing okay. Same thing, we don't have water stakes in there. We just water it every day with an open hose and make sure it doesn't dry out. That's Daddy Pete's raised bed mix, so it's got quite a bit of sand in it, so it drains really well, which means you got to keep it watered, and especially in a drought. Let's head now over here. This is the west side of our yard, so we call those the west beds. There's a platform garden, a 4x8 cedar raised bed, and a couple of what I call boxes, 2 little raised beds over on the side. I guess I should bring the camera. Y'all can't follow me that easily. I wish you could. Wouldn't that be cool? Talk about virtual reality. Well, there we go. Again, these are the west beds. See a grapevine. First of all, you see a grapevine on the fence back there. Proud of that. I brought that back to life. It needs weeding down there, but that's not actually in the bed. In fact, all of this needs a weed eater. What do you know? It rains and everything just pops. I got to get out here. Anyhow, over here in the cedar bed, got a little bit of everything. This mustard here, I'm letting that go to seed. And those are old collard greens. That stuff's all bitter. Down below there, that's a Carolina Reaper pepper. And it's just a variety. Another tomato, of course. And then we have 3 types of peppers, a jalapeno, pimento, and a datil pepper. There's a little butterfly weed over there. And that is another cinnamon girl pumpkin. Now on the right side, that's a bed of leeks, and they are ready. Let me grab one and see what we got here. We'll call this semi-success. I really would like that white about that long. Starts greening up about right here. Yeah. Anyway, we had a box of leeks over here. And to the right of the leeks is it's another box bed. It's full of lavender and hyssop. And they are both just gone nuts. That needs a haircut badly. You may be wondering why we didn't harvest any of this lavender. We got plenty of lavender. That stuff keeps pretty well. We just needed to get our stand going again, so I did. We'll probably harvest that maybe next year, but we have plenty of it. And then the last thing we have is the raised bed, and it's a little leggy. There's some Swiss chard in there, some herbs, you know, oregano and thyme, parsley, basil, and more of this Chinese spinach. Chinese multicolored spinach. There's a video on that. And also, there's bay laurel in a bucket, a rosemary in a bucket, and I've got 6 turmeric plants, and working on a ginger. Hopefully it gets up, and then I could finish it off in the greenhouse over the fall and winter. Maybe. We'll see. Well, it is 8:12 a.m. now. Here comes Mr. Sun. And that reminds me that, no matter what we plan, the weather has a vote. Yes, indeedy. So for the drought, just to reiterate, we water at ground level. One, you're not wasting a bunch of water. And two, you're mitigating, not eliminating, but mitigating the chance of disease when it's hot and humid. If it's hot, humid, and wet, you're going to have a problem in the southeast growing vegetables, guaranteed. And the tour, you could see some damage. And we don't water the leaves, and they still get damaged. A little bit of rain's all it takes. And we've had that little bits, little bits. We're still in a drought. I think in our area for the year, 7 inches short. I think May was positive. Everything else, every month, everything, including so far in July, is negative. Yes, indeedy. Well, leave me a note down there. What's your favorite way to fight a drought? Do you use soaker hose, stakes, oils? Do you water overhead? I know somebody might, well, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. My brother said, oh, water overhead all the time. Blah, blah, blah. He's also not in the southeast, by the way. He's in East Tennessee, so it's a little different over there down in the valley. They don't get the humidity as much, and especially if you go up in the mountain. Anyway, I'm babbling on. Drop your comments down there, and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new. If you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. And we'll see you on the YouTube. Happy gardening.